Hey everybody, Ryan Marrinan here for 3M. Today we're going to talk about seam sealer replication, particularly on this GM vehicle here behind me, and how we're going to replicate something that wasn't put there from the factory. Let's head inside and get started. All right guys, so we're going to show you how we're going to replicate this bead. Again, we're replacing a panel here, and from the factory they don't have seam sealer, but in the repair procedures they're actually asking us to put a seam sealer in, but we don't want it to look like the door's been replaced. So how are we going to accomplish that? I'm going to show you here in a couple simple tips. So we've got our panel prep, we've got epoxy primer on it because we had a little bit of bare metal exposed. I've also taped off in this region here, and this isn't going to be quite as crucial with this bead. I just want to make sure that I don't have a lot of slop laying around. What we're going to do is we're going to actually be using 5887 for this application. And like with all of our two-part cartridges, we want to make sure that we equalize it first, always in an upright position into a paper towel. And we're just making sure they've got equal parts of A and B that's actually being dispensed out of the cartridge. Once it's been equalized and we've got our tip applied, we're going to tighten down the lock ring, and we're going to want to dispense the material out onto a mixing board. If you don't have a mixing board, you could use a paper towel for this as well. But what we're doing here is we just want to make sure that we're getting all the material thoroughly mixed through the static mixer. For this application, I have also turned down the air pressure on my applicator a little bit. Again, we don't need a lot of material here, so I want to be able to control what I'm doing just a little bit better. Once I've got it equalized, we're going to go ahead and apply it to the vehicle. As I'm applying it, I'm always maintaining that inward facing, forcing the material into that hem flange, making sure that I'm creating a tight seal. Now when I do this type of application on replacement panels, door skins, deck lids, or hoods, I'm making sure that I'm always starting and stopping from the same position. So I started from this point and I worked my way around. I will do that for the continuous of the entire panel. And then when I come back with my spreader on, I'm going to work this in. Now here's where this bead comes in handy here. We're going to actually put a lot of pressure downward on here, and we're going to use our finger on the backside to create a scraping effect here, okay? And what we're trying to do is we're just forcing the material into that seam, and we actually want to, in this case, scrape the material off. Now if you feel like you got a little bit too much on here, you can go back and you can clean up this top edge while the tape is still attached. Utilizing the fact that where the tape is, it's still clean and protected, so we're not creating a huge mess. If you needed to go back in and adjust that bead, you could use the corner, the rounded corner portion of the applicator here, or of the spreader here rather, and you could use that to really work it in nice and tight. Again, I want to clean off the excess material that came out on top, and then once we're done with that, we can go ahead and we can pull our tape off. As always with our seam sealers, we want to make sure that whether we're doing it in an actual bead or next to a bead, our best practice is that we're always pulling the tape back against itself, creating a nice clean cut edge. And it's just best practice to continue to do that each and every time. It just becomes a natural thing. Now you'll notice here we've got a little bit of material that's gotten out onto the panel that we don't want there. So let's show you how we're going to remove that. You can either use our specialty adhesive cleaner or our G-Pack general purpose adhesive cleaner. You can wet it out in a towel, and while it's still in its working condition and it's not cured yet, you can go ahead and wipe up any of the excess that you don't want on that panel. If you want to get in close to our application, go ahead and just put a little bit on the towel, and we're going to work in here, and we're just going to clean up any of the excess. And I like to create a nice sharp corner with my towel when I do this, so that I'm not getting into the bead that we just laid down, so I don't have to redo that. So it might take a few different folds of the towel as you're doing this. Again, this is going to save us a lot of work in the end of either forgetting to do it and then finding out after it's painted that you can see a sharp line there that's not supposed to be there, or waiting till it's dried and then having to sand it off, potentially exposing that bare metal and then starting over. If you do happen to sand it after it's been dried, that is fine. If you expose any bare metal, make sure you tell your painter about it, We want to make sure we get the proper corrosion protection applied to that surface after it's been worked on. So in this case here, I've got just a little bit of the corner left, so I'll come in here with some material. And again, I don't need to reapply a static mixer because I'm still within the working window of the product. And we're going to take our spreader and we're just going to work that in really tight once again. And if we wanted to, if it was an awkward corner and the spreader didn't quite fit, you could use with a protective glove and you could clean up that edge. Again, so we're ready to go. Once we send this off to paint, this is going to create a nice tight seam sealed edge, but give you that factory look. So again, we've returned the vehicle to its pre-accident crash worthiness per the repair requirements of the OEM. Plus the customer doesn't, tell right from opening the door that this has actually been worked on before. All right guys, so that's it for this bead here today. For more information on our seam sealers, go ahead and visit 3M Collision Repair Academy. The link for that is in the description below. Also check out some of the other videos on our page. You can do that by hitting subscribe below. Also hit the notification bell. That way you're getting notifications when we release new material and content, making sure that you're staying up on the industry's best practices as we release them. If you would, go ahead and hit thumbs up on this video if you liked it. Throw a comment in the section below. I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time.